going to be discussing can go either way. It's not male or female. Right. What I say today isn't just what men can use. So that was just a nice topic that we wanted to share. But honey, can you quote the scripture?
So our background text is coming from 1 Corinthians chapter 13. And one of the most powerful verses, my pastor would say this all the time to me. He would always say, love never fails. Love never fails. But we were in a relationship, we were in a marriage, and it seemed like our love was failing.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that? It was failing to meet the needs that I had.
Yeah.
And my love was failing her because it was failing to meet the needs that she had.
Good
right.
explanation.
So love was, for lack of a, it was failing us. Love never fails. I want you to understand what I'm saying. But we were experiencing,
it didn't seem to be working in our home.
We were experiencing that love is really actually failing us. We're not experiencing love.
Oh,
we're not experiencing
but what did
joy.
we find out?
But we found out something that changed our life.
We found out something, and this is something we love to share, like I said, with couples, but you can also take this as a parent, as a sibling. You could take it to other relationships. But what we found out, because the scripture clearly says love never fails. But again, time and time again, we've talked to couples. And one person is saying, I'm doing everything I can to show love. And the other person is saying, I don't feel love. Something's going on.
Wrong.
There is a disconnect. And one of the things in our research and in working with couples, we came across
this book.
And
as a matter of fact, let me give a shout out. Who told me about this book?
Okay.
Caitlin's husband, Michael Barham.
Okay.
Michael Barham. He's a motivational speaker in Belsham, Alabama.
Look him up on Facebook.
Yeah, look him up on Facebook.
Excellent,
he does a lot
speaker.
of good speaking and different things like that. But he told me, he said, listen, man, have you ever heard of this book? You know, and I said, no, I never heard of the book before. He told me about the book, and this is what turned us on to this.
Okay. The author of the book is Dr. Gary Chapman, and it's called The 5 Love Languages.
You got to get that in your library.
The 5 Love Languages. And you're like, what? What in the world? But you know, a lot of times you say, well, what this got to do with church? Well, the word of God established the family. God established marriage. God said marriage is honorable. God established it. But you know, sometimes we don't want to take the time to go deeper and see how to nurture our relationships. So it has everything to do.
Yeah.
Because if the home is falling apart and marriages are falling apart, then what?
Go
ahead.
I'm sorry, but I was just going to talk about...
You saw when I do my hands like this. That's the teacher in me. I was going to say, and well, pupils, let's talk about for today.
But like she said, the 5 love languages. And what we didn't realize is that love has a language.
Yes, it
There's
does.
a language. It's a way that you're supposed to communicate love. I used to teach ESL. And
English second language.
English second language. I think they call it ELL now, English language learners. And these were people that I taught that came in the country for the first time. Maybe they've been in the country for the first 6 months of the year. Some have been in the country for the first year of their life. Some have been in the country maybe a year. And so my job at that particular time was to teach them and get them ready for a transitional program to get them ready for college. So as I was teaching this program, we would come across these words. And I understood the word because I understood the context in which the word was said. For example, I'll say, the wind blew hard last night, right? I knew that I was talking about wind outside blew, right? But what they heard was BLUE, the color blue.
Oh, that probably
So a
messed
lot
them
of
up.
people were sitting there like, the wind was blue last night?
Y'all got blue wind?
We did not communicate.
Yes.
We did not communicate. I will say this all the time. Hey, man, listen. Y'all better watch out for the weather tonight. They were thinking watch on your wrist. When I'm talking about looking out, look at the TV. So we didn't communicate. Same thing in our marriage. Language, love has a language. And if you are thinking this, but the other person is thinking this, you could be talking. Because I was talking. I was delivering information to the class. But you know what? I wasn't communicating. I was talking, but I wasn't communicating. The same thing in your bedroom. You could be saying this. Your spouse is thinking this. Y'all are giving love, but it's not being communicated. You all are missing each other. You don't understand the language in which love is supposed to be given.
And one of the bases of communication is understanding.
Right.
And so if you're engaging, if any of you have taken a communication class or anything like that, the basis of communication is understanding, sending and receiving of information. And whenever there is not an understanding anymore, you're no longer communicating.
Right.
Communication has broken down. So what we found is that we have couples, and we've added this to when we have an opportunity to talk to couples, do workshops and things like that. What we found is that when we hear that, when our ears go off and somebody says, well, I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and the other person is saying, I'm still not feeling love, what we found is that they're communicating on different spheres, if you want to put it in those ways. Everybody has a way that they give love, and everybody has a way that they receive love. And just like you and your spouse are different in different ways, I'm more introverted, my husband's more extroverted, right? He's more of a social person and talk and meet people. I'm a little bit more off to myself. Everybody can recognize those things, but we think love is just love. Right? But they're different ways. If you think about yourself for a moment, if you think about yourself and think about how you like to be loved, that can be completely different from how your spouse likes to be loved. I can take it a step further. Think about your kids if you have kids.
Exactly.
We have 3 boys. Each one of my boys is different. I remember my youngest son, he was a baby. My other 2, they like to receive love. They wanted me to hold them and cuddle them, and they wanted to be up under me. My youngest was not like that. He was very independent.
He don't want you to hold him or anything.
He didn't want that. And so I was kind of taken aback because I wanted to show him love because I thought that's how you hug him and hold him. And he didn't want that. He wanted to get up and go with the bigger boys.
Even a funny story, even my oldest son now when he's around his friends at school and stuff like that, he doesn't really, he don't want you to hug him or anything like that. But as soon as he gets home from school, he lays his head on you. He wants to hug you all the time, but that's the way that he
likes to receive love. So the 5 love languages that Dr. Chapman identifies, and we won't go through each of them today, but we're just going to kind of put them out there, and then we'll carry on the conversation next week. And to give you an opportunity to start thinking about yourself, thinking about your spouse, or if you don't have a spouse, think about you, thinking about your kids, thinking about you, thinking about your parents, or whomever it may be. It's words of affirmation, acts of service, quality time, giving gifts, and physical touch. Those are 5 languages that people use as it relates to love. And generally, the way that you like to receive love, or the way that you like to give love, is the way that you like to receive it. So the example that I'll take myself for today. My husband gave the story at the beginning that, he used to tell me that at the beginning of our marriage. I know, you just shaking my table. Leave my table alone. Okay. So he used to say at the beginning of our marriage, how you don't love me, I'm not feeling love. And I'm thinking, what? The house is together, the kids are together, you don't want, there's food and clothing. But my love language is acts of service. I get that because my mother is like that. My love language, I'm real big on jumping in and doing what needs to be done, taking something off someone else's plate. And so that's how I show love. You come home, you don't have to worry about that. Food's together, your laundry's together. Oh, I noticed that you were low on razors. I picked your razors up. Oh, I put your shoes up for you. And I'm thinking, I'm loving you to no ends, and then you don't appreciate it. And so, but that's how I like to give love. And for those of you who are like that, your love language is acts of service. You believe in easing the burden on the other person.
My love language is gifts. I love gifts. I love to receive gifts. I love to give gifts. That's one of my most exciting times of the year. And so I would always try to show my wife love by buying her jewelry, flowers. I would buy all this stuff, buy her clothes all the time.
Thanks.
And she'd be like, oh, thanks. And I was offended.
He was offended.
I was offended because I was like, wow, I did not get the
appreciation that he thought. And it really caused a tension in our relationship because here he is, he's spending time, he's going to buy stuff. It's not that I didn't like it, But I'm not, I mean, I appreciate a gift.
Right.
But mine, like I said, is acts of service. So he was spend and go and get that stuff. But then when he came here, I got this big to-do list.
Right.
And he's not jumping in and helping.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I still got kids got to be bathed or this has to be done. And now I'm feeling unloved.
So you see the miscommunication? I'm thinking if I give her a gift,
I'm showing
if
love.
I buy her this, if I do that for her, then I'm actually communicating love. No, what I'm doing is I'm communicating love to her the way I like love communicated to me. Right? Here she is, washing the clothes, doing all the stuff around the house, making sure the house is clean, doing all these things to show her love. And she said, don't you see I'm showing love to you? But no, that's the way that she likes to receive love. So here we are in the house.
Both putting forth 100%.
100%.
But we're putting forth 100% in what we wanted.
And
in the way that we wanted love.
Right.
Not taking time to look at our spouse and say, how does our spouse want to be loved?
And that's why we titled this, Giving Him Something They Can Feel. See, when you give love, love is not selfish. So you give it the way that the person likes to receive it, not how you want to give it.
And can I say something real quick with that? And so what does that mean? What does that mean? That you might not necessarily have that down packed at the beginning of your relationship, but what that means is you have to take time and study.
Yes.
Your spouse, or for those of you who are not big talkers, you got to tell your spouse what you like. Because all of us, it's just our nature to give love the way that we like to receive it.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that you're a bad person.
It doesn't mean that.
But if you want to, that love never fails, if you want to be communicating on the same page, you got to take time to figure out how the other person likes to be loved.
And all you got to do is sit down and talk about it. Talk about it. A lot of arguments, frustration, and a lot of arguments that we had back in the earlier part of our marriage could have been settled if we would have just said, you know what, honey, how do you like for me to love you?
And
what does it so what do you okay, I'm sorry.
No, I got excited when you said that. Yeah, how do you and at first we had to have the light bulb go off to recognize that love just isn't just it's just not this blah term like love, but it's more levels to it.
It's levels.
And nobody told us.
Yes, it's levels to it. You know, that cute stuff when y'all were dating and different things like that. Oh, I love you. And then
you in the cloud.
Baby, after about 6 months of marriage, that goes out the window.
You in the
and
cloud.
now love transitions to another level. And now you got to really work at this thing called love to make sure that they can feel what you're trying to give it.
Yeah.
It's not that you don't love your spouse. You love them. You know you love them. It's not that you don't want to be good to them. You want to be good to them. But you got to work on not loving them the way that you like to be loved. Find out what it is that they like. Find out what is that hot button for you.
Yeah. It's like you're talking in two different languages. We can understand when we meet someone and they speak a different language. Yes. I have a neighbor who's from Belize. So I can recognize that when I'm talking to her, I don't get everything because she has an accent and she's speaking with a different language. But it's the same thing that's happening in your home. Is you guys are speaking with different languages. And what do you got to do? You got to get an understanding. You got to be willing to say, okay, this is my language. Let me try to understand their language.
Exactly.
So I can meet their needs.